I want to welcome you back to another episode of what I branded Pivotal, since these interview style segments tackle impactful CPG industry topics and lessons from the business leaders that live it every day. If I asked you to make a list of the fastest growing supplement brands of the 2020s, I'd consider you downright silly if you didn't include the name Bloom. Excuse the punny joke, but if you weren't aware, business is absolutely bloomin' at the supplement brand that Greg Lavecchia co founded with his wife, Mari Llewellyn. In our conversation, Greg and I cover everything from Bloom's overnight success and how the power of an audience first CPG strategy propelled the early days to how 2020 changed everything for the company in a good way. And we also deep dive into Bloom's exceptional strategic alignment between its digital marketing playbook, sales channel strategy, and the Greens and Superfoods product. But before Greg and I dive into these fascinating topics and more, I want to give a quick shout out to the supporter of today's content, Synergy Flavors. Combining a long heritage of flavor development and modern extraction technology, Synergy Flavors blends art, science, and market insights to create an exceptional array of tastes that drive brand innovation and delight consumers. And you'll hear in this episode just how important a great tasting hero product was to the success at Bloom, allowing it to become the most reviewed greens powder on the Amazon marketplace. If you're interested in learning how Synergy Flavors can help your functional CPG brand stay one step ahead of the competition by developing high quality taste solutions, head over to synergytaste.com or reach out to me directly and I'll connect you with the relevant team members. But without further delay, here is the recent conversation I had with my good friend and CEO of Bloom, Greg Lavecchia. Greg, well, thanks for taking time out of your day to jam and give insights to my audience. I have to say, I respect and appreciate the hell out of what you guys have been able to build thus far. I know you guys are still in the early stages of what I'm sure your aspirations are with Bloom, but every time I see something, every time I kind of look deeper into something, I'm like, this is interesting. I have to admit though, I'm probably not one of those like day ones, or whatever they call it. Like, I'm definitely not that person because I didn't catch wind, I think, of you guys until like early 2021. And it was mostly probably, I think, from some activity on Amazon and things like that. And that's, no knock on anything that you guys were doing, but like, I'm one of those weirdos that like typically only follow people that I know on social
Yeah.
media. So like I have a little bit of a blind spot for like early creator brands and things like that. Unless I'm doing like a consulting project or whatever that requires me to do a deep dive. Like I don't know a lot of times like the very early ones because I don't have a lot of those like parasocial relationships out there or whatever
Sure.
that I'm like, oh, that that influencer, that celebrity, that whatever, which I know I'm the oddball, I think, at this point. But yeah, I think when you guys started to pick up some steam on Amazon, I was like, oh, this is something I got to pay attention to.
No, it's funny you say that because, first of all, thank you for the kind words. We pretty much had our head in the sand very intentionally. Even in the business circles, I had no network. We kept to ourselves. We worked to ourselves. We everything's done in house, so it's not like we were working with any agencies. And then on January 3rd of this year, and I'll bring this story back later and tell it in depth, but we bought the first page. We bought the home page of Amazon, right? So I was like, all right, it's 2023. It's time to make a fucking statement. I want the world to know what's the biggest billboard I can buy for a 24-hour period. And I was like, well, that's probably the front page of Amazon. So went all in 1.3 million. Definitely more. Probably had to put a couple of that on an Amex and bought the front page for 24 hours. And then everyone knew who we were. So it's definitely been an interesting year since January 3rd specifically. But I'm glad you knew us before then. If you're saying 2022, then you are early, especially for a guy. Because keep in mind, we're 95% women customer base.
Yeah, no, so it was 2021. I mean, I think
Oh,
I caught
nice.
you guys pretty early, and that's mostly because I think I do a lot of work in Amazon and just across categories. I
Yeah,
would say that, like to your point, if I'm talking about brands that I follow, especially like some of the creator brands, like it's probably more male than female, and that's mostly because if it's a personal consumption of
of
content that
course.
just relates more to me than the other side of it. But I think that I was just, super impressed about what all the stuff I think you guys were doing. And again, I think I'm a lot of times earlier of understanding like some of the moves and then I look backwards and start to see like some of the earlier kind of stuff, which is a bit of a transition here because I usually do not do too much like background. I wish I had producers and things that could like go into the depths of whatever, but for whatever reason, I stumbled on a video, and it was you talking about how you kind of created a supplement brand back. I don't know if it was like middle school, high school, whatever it was. And what was it called? Simply the Best? Was that what it's called?
Is that why you mentioned that in one of our initial emails? Because I was
Yeah,
like,
because
oh, about that, dude.
you're
I
like, does
had
this guy
merch.
does this
I
guy
had
know
merch.
my brand?
I was walking around the college campus with a shirt that said STB, simply the best nutrition, and the B had a leaf. Like it was
Oh
just like the
man.
Bloom logo. So I mean, I've had, and then every presentation I did in business school was about a hypothetical supplement brand called Simply the Best Nutrition.
Talk about like the power of visualization. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Well,
I'm probably not the most religious guy, but like from a spiritual
yeah,
energy, that kind of stuff, like I'm big on like that all of this has energy, all of these thoughts were once kind of there and then they start to
yeah.
like form and all that stuff. And it's like crazy because you were doing that way before you had any idea that you were gonna maybe one day create, a supplement brand.
Yeah, and I don't know your background, but like in my teenage years, I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder.
Mm.
So like at age 14, I was at that point on, I was obsessed with supplements. My pantry, every dollar I had was pretty much spent on supplements, at least until I got a driver's license. But so I wanted to be a bodybuilder from day one. I was obsessed with supplements from day one, and I mean all of this just makes sense. And then I don't know if you're aware of this, but obviously I've co-founded the brand with my wife. But my best friend from high school, and now our best friend, who actually ordained Mari and I at our wedding, is our COO.
Mm.
So it's still just kept within our personal circle, and we all grew up within 1 mile apart from each other. And I'll go into the whole brand story in a minute, but there's a lot of like weird small world, like all meant to be aspects of this brand that I think make it pretty special, at least
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think that obviously any time you have the opportunity to create things with people that are close to you and have that, it's special because I feel like there's when you have and you look across the room and you're like, I want to battle for this person or whatever it is, like it it pushes you to, I think, limits that you don't normally would get to by yourself, because you care so much about the people that are in that room, and a lot of times those are unbreakable by people that have been in your life for a long period of time. But I did want to kind of talk about like the overnight success aspect of Bloom because we mentioned it earlier. Like most people probably know you guys from the last year ish. For most people, like where did this brand come from? What the heck is going on? These guys all of a sudden became the biggest thing in the supplement industry, and they came out of nowhere. But you guys, there's stories that go back here beyond even, I think, the start of the supplement brand. There
Yeah,
are, like I always call them like the audience first, like
yeah.
CPG brands. It's that idea that you build an audience first, and then at that point, you have the ability to do whatever with that audience as long as you can continue to serve them products and services or whatever those are to kind of go there. But like that ends up creating like these massive, powerful brands of today. And you guys had that.
I'll start from the jump. So Mari and I started dating in college. Mari is now my wife and the co-founder of Bloom Nutrition. And in 2017, Mari went through a fitness transformation, um, which may or may not have been slightly influenced with my obsession with bodybuilding. Um, and she lost 90 pounds. I mean,
Wow.
it was an incredible transformation. Took control of her whole life and has now turned into an incredible entrepreneur and personality herself. But she shared that on Instagram. It got some traction, right? Like I wouldn't say it was an instant virality, but like it got some PR, it got some reposts on some pages, and people started to follow her, and she started to post as an influencer and share just her journey and her life, and started to be a regular active user of Instagram. we were still in the dorm room at this point, right? We were still in college. And I was like, Mara, I've been watching all these drop shipping videos, been watching all these Facebook ad videos, I was obsessed with Alibaba and all these things at that point. And I was like, let me just run some Facebook ads with the CTA, with the call to action just being follow this page, right? And I knew that if I could do that, if they just, if they just saw her page for a second, they'd be like, oh, this person's amazing. I need to click follow, right? So we scaled that operation as big as we could without even having a product, just getting her as many followers as possible, which is a key point from the beginning, because generally speaking, if a female influencer has, let's say, 1 million followers, 500,000 of them are male, 100,000 of them, if not more, are in Brazil or a non-addressable TAM, right? And Mari's now 1.6 million followers on Instagram are like the perfect targeted female consumer and community out of, so it's almost like she has 10 million followers. Yeah. You get what I'm trying to say? So from there, everyone was asking her, hey, how can I take control of my life and have a similar, fitness transformation physically and mentally? And so we launched a $5 instant download PDF. And we had no Shopify. People would DM her and she would send it to them. We would send them the PayPal me link. And it was a ridiculous operation, just all night working the DMs. And that just turned into an incredible, it was called Mari Fitness, the Mari Fitness Guides, the best business ever. There was no cog, should have never stopped doing it. And from there, our first physical product was a booty band, right? Like a cotton, similar to like the first one that comes to mind is, I think Mark Bell calls it a hip circle. Very similar to that product. It was when everyone in 2018, I think it was all about growing your ass in the female space, right? So like, of course, that was like the perfect, everything's timing in business. And that was, of course, perfect timing. At this point, we had a Shopify and it was like a way more streamlined process. Sold over 1 million of those booty bands. And then everyone was saying, hey, what supplements should I take? And Mari was very strategic in the sense that she never signed a deal, right? Every supplement company was like trying to sign her, let alone activewear company. And she said no to everyone and said, no, I'm going to be, one of the few, if not one of the less than 5 people who said, I'm not going to work with another company. I'm going to try to, make my own companies. And so in 2019, we launched Bloom Nutrition with just a pre-workout. We were completely bootstrapped. It was just funded from those instant download PDFs and the booty bands. And we launched a, lower caffeine. Mari deals with anxiety. We wanted an anxiety-friendly, female-focused pre-workout. So Bloom Nutrition was born, and intentionally not called Mari Supplements, right? Like we knew this would end up being bigger than Mari. And so, we kept selling out. We kept on just ordering the MOQ, the minimum order quantity of any, small manufacturer that we could work with in the Northeast, because for some reason I wanted them to be close to us, because we were in New York at this point, and had a really strong first year. And so we're living in New York at this point, and we're working out of like Mari's dad's attic, just like completely, startup culture. Mari and I just by ourselves doing everything: customer service, fulfillment, logistics, R&D, etc. And we were getting like just so much. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. We were growing up in a town where everyone had a very traditional corporate job, whether that's lawyer, banker, doctor, or normal 9 to 5. And honestly, like people weren't that supportive of the journey that we were on in terms of trying to become our own entrepreneurs and being self-employed. And so out of nowhere, we're like, we need to get out of here, right? So Mari and I moved to Boulder, Colorado. We thought we liked the outdoors, which we do, but not as much as people in Boulder. And we lived there for a year. And when I tell you we maybe have 1 or 2 friends after that entire year there, both of which are currently work for us still because they ended up becoming our first employees, our first team members. We just worked for 365 days straight, essentially hiding in the mountains of Boulder. And at that, we ended that year with a pretty full performance fitness supplement line for women made by women, right? Pre-workouts, EAAs with some hydration in them, a whey protein, and of course, a decent amount of back and forth perfecting those products. Like I remember the first whey product that we had was a whey plus collagen product, which I actually thought was an incredible product, but I think it was not used to what people were seeing. But anyway, then in 2020, we launched the Greens. And so instantaneously, our customer went from an incredible community, but niche community, a female who works out, who goes to the gym, takes pre-workout, to any woman in the United States. And it was just so clear that the wellness space was such a, apples and oranges TAM compared to the fitness space for women, right? And I mean, within 6 to 12 months, this grease powder became our hero SKU by far. And we pretty much just said, okay, this is the opportunity here. We saw hero SKU companies starting to become more of a thing, right? Think Vital Proteins.
Yep.
Like before Vital Proteins, most companies had a pretty big horizontal expansion in terms of their product line, right? Like think First Form. They have 100 different, probably 1,000 different SKUs, right? So it was weird that we were going to put all of our energy into greens, but we knew for some reason that just was calling to us and it just made sense. So, we had this greens product, organic fruits and vegetables, probiotics, prebiotics, essentially just all in one supplement. It was perfect timing in terms of the gut health trend. Mari was obsessed with the product herself. Of course, I obviously take the product too, but I'm a male, so it's a little different. And we scaled Bloom to it in its second year to 23 million with just Mari as the face of the brand. No other influencers working with us. Pretty aggressive. I guess at the time it was called Facebook. I was about to say Meta, but a pretty aggressive Meta, arbitrage of just like pretty advanced campaigns, which is what I ran. I'm a marketer by trade. And then at that point, it was still like Mari and I, maybe a graphic designer, and then our amazing customer service head at the time, who's now our head of HR, Dom. And we understood both sides of the table of influencer marketing, right? Because Mari had an influencer level following herself. So we were like, okay, we have this product that is the TAM is literally any woman in the United States. We need to throw this into the wildfire that is the algorithm of Instagram, because TikTok wasn't around yet. And we started an influencer program. At that point, we were at a major turning point of the brand because it was getting way too big for me to just handle myself, let alone, or for Mari and I to handle ourselves. And so I called onto my best friend from high school, my best friend at that time, Leo, who was doing sales in the finance world. And, he was in the classic stereotypical, essentially boiler room of sales, right? And I was like, you need to click copy and paste of that sales boiler room in this, in this masculine, toxic environment. Like, I want you to make that our influencer program in-house here. Right. And I want to have relationships with all these influencers. I want to know their birthdays. I want to know their anniversaries. Like, I want to create the best influencer program that we possibly can to create as much awareness about this product as possible. And I know that, if people try it, they'll continue to come back. So he did that. He left finance, which was a thriving career at the time. He took the chance to come join the team with us. And we started working. At this point, we're in New York City, and we started to scale what has now become, without a doubt, at least on the TikTok channel, the largest in-house influencer agency that I would think exists. And I'm talking, it's a unique program in the sense that, we don't call any of these people Bloom athletes. There's no affiliate codes. There's no affiliate links. There's zero attribution to the entire program, which I imagine most corporate CMOs would have a heart attack if they saw how this program works. But it's at the point now where we're talking 6, 7, 800 million views a month across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. 2, 3, 4 Super Bowl ads worth of views a month, depending on how big you want to call a Super Bowl ad. But that is now our entire top of funnel marketing for the company. And has, of course, if we were 23 million in 2019, 2020, we're now, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that. The thing about the influencer marketing was there's something just like inconvenient about Shopify for the Gen Z consumer, which is who we were addressing. And so when we took the jump and we went on Amazon, I was very scared to go on Amazon. At the time, Amazon had a little bit of a more gray reputation, right? In terms of the sellers on there, in terms of how they treat you, in terms of like how the wild west of the reviews, for example, and how all of that works. So I was very nervous about it, but we hopped on Amazon, and that was just the perfect complementary channel for this influencer program. And, fast forward to only 6 months later, let alone today, Amazon's still our biggest channel. 50% of this business is on Amazon. We have at many points throughout the last 12 months, we've had the #1 BSR in all of health and household, which is like fucking toilet paper, let alone supplements. Like we're beating toothpaste. Like we're beating everyone on Amazon. As we've entered omni-channel, which is now Target and Walmart, Amazon has become a little bit of a different channel for us. But Amazon was our bread and butter for probably 24 months straight. And I think so many entrepreneurs, small businesses, startups in any space, let alone CPG or wellness, really sleep on Amazon and the opportunity or the TAM that's on there. I mean, to have something where people essentially have no excuse but to convert, right? You just click an orange button that says buy now, and you could have the product the next day on your doorstep. It is the single greatest sales channel that has ever existed, right? And
Yeah.
I see so many brands not taking advantage of this. It does, there's 1,000 different greens products that somebody could buy. It's the most saturated channel of a product that exists, but it's just incredible. I'm
Yeah.
such a fan of Amazon, and I also think they get a bad rap for like being this big corporation. Coming from me, who was a small business and a startup, they gave us that platform, right? They gave us that platform to support us as a small business, and I now have a more of a corporate relationship with them, and they've been very supportive.
I think about some of these, kind of decisions that you guys have made, and I get a lot of people that will ask me like just off the cuff, kind of questions about something strategic, and I think they always want me to give a quick answer, and I'm always kind of wanting to dig deeper into understanding some of the other like integrated decisions around that. Like everything in a vacuum could, it doesn't really matter. Like it needs to be aligned and it needs to be something that matches. And it's like a
Yeah.
puzzle that needs to be put together. If things are out of alignment and one decision you're making on one side of the house, if that's marketing, is not aligned with something on the sales side, like you're just creating resistance and you're creating chaos in your organization. So a lot of times I can't give a quick answer. And I think you made a extremely kind of good point that I want to make sure that people kind of connect the dots. You said something around, hey, we don't necessarily track codes, attribution in terms of our influencer program, but you're using it as, like you said, it's impressions, billboard, and because of who you're marketing to and knowing that their natural shopping behavior and journey is going to start on Amazon, if not, them purchasing on Amazon or them at least
Yeah.
first product search going on there and typing it
Yeah.
in, that's where they're naturally going to go. It's going to be the first thing they do. So yeah, you're not going to get like what most people think about, this clean transactional kind of relationship with your influencer program, but you're leveraging them in the way that you want them to. You don't want them to be pushing sales and transactions. You want them to be pushing the experience and the product. And
Yes.
naturally, if somebody enjoys that content, they're going to go to Amazon first. And
Yeah.
because now that you're on Amazon and you guys have, I think, the most reviews out of any greens product, something that you guys do really well, at least that I saw or have experienced myself, is that you guys have focused a lot on taste in a category that's not taste forward. So
Of
when you
course.
look at like, Amazon reviews, most from an ingestible CPG standpoint are coming from a taste. Taste is where it's going to be. So when you do have a product that usually is like, hey, it's going to taste like crap because, oh, look at all this stuff that's in it. It's naturally that's what it's going to taste like. But you guys are saying, no, we're just going to actually take the time. Flavor is really important here. We're gonna make sure these things are great. And because of that, then people are going to be more willing to write positive reviews for us, which then just creates that flywheel of like social credit for you guys, where then more people then go from your influencer program over to Amazon. They see that there's 40,000 positive reviews. They're going to go, I'm not a special snowflake. This sounds great. I'm going to buy it because everybody else is buying it. So why wouldn't I buy it? Like it's kind of that follower mentality a little bit. But like when you mention those things, when they're connected together, they become really powerful. Now, in a vacuum, each one, you're like, okay, well, maybe I would have looked at it maybe differently. But then when you put those things together, that's when they really become powerful, which then, to your point, you guys have had such a hockey puck because you've connected the dots in a way that is super impressive. And it goes back to those earlier statements. Like when I look at your guys' company or anybody's company, when I do analysis, like I'm looking for those types of decisions that end up becoming these multipliers that become things that are hard sometimes for people to put their finger on because they always want to go to this like easy, like, oh, it's because they have this or they have that, but where it's usually a combination of three things that just worked in conjunction with each other and perfectly, that then all of a sudden took on this momentum thing. And like, momentum, and if it's sports or business, like it's hard to sometimes explain it
but it's real. It just happens where it just takes off and it just goes.
You come from the days where I come from, where when we bought a protein shake, we had to squeeze our nose, right?
Mhm.
So I think in 2023, let alone since probably 2018, flavor is almost on the same level of priority or importance as the actual efficacy of the product. Taste is crucial, especially when you're, getting people where Bloom is getting people who are new to their fitness journey a lot of the time, right? Sometimes we're the first supplement they've ever bought. They're used to drinking Diet Coke. They're used to drinking full calorie Coke.
Yeah.
They're used to good flavor, right? Like they cannot, a greens product is very difficult to make taste good. Most people compare most greens powders to the bottom of the lawnmower, right? In terms of what it tastes like. And so taste from the beginning of Bloom was crucial, and we learned that early on, which by the way was difficult for me to understand because I was somebody who just cared about efficacy. I almost enjoyed a bad tasting product. Like I still drink disgusting supplements and shakes just because like that's, I like the tenacity that comes with that. But the female space, and I think overall the Gen Z generation, taste is up there with the number one most important thing. I also think people don't realize how easy it is to lose a conversion. And something as little as taking a coupon code from your favorite influencer and that extra step at the conversion point,
Yeah.
you're losing so many people. So early on, I was like, how do I make a checkout process that is as little clicks as possible, whether that's on my Shopify or at Amazon? But the first thing is to have a marketing funnel that says, go buy it anywhere. Wherever you want to buy it, you can buy it. And there's nothing you need to do except click buy now. Right? So there's no coupon code. You don't have to go remember who your favorite influencer is and click their affiliate link. All of those things slow down the process. They add a step and therefore you lose customers, right? I mean, another thing that comes with that too is I didn't want an affiliate program that discounted the product, right? I don't want to have a constant 10, 20% off of our product. Our product never goes on sale unless it's, Black Friday or Prime Day.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been something that's been a core value of this brand is we're not doing like every influencer has 20% off of this product. We don't do that. That said, you're also playing a game where there's very little attribution, at least easy to track attribution. So you have to get pretty sophisticated in your tracking techniques. But I'm very happy that we've kept that from the beginning. Back to the brand story. So in 2022. Early last year, we started to call Target. And I was like, listen, you need to put us in our stores. Like this is crushing it on Amazon. If you're using Amazon as a barometer of the overall American demand of a product, it makes no sense for you to not have our product in your store. Right? They said, fuck you. They were like, dude, Target didn't say, I love Target. They did not say that to us. But they said, listen, Greg and Mari, superfoods don't sell. We just spent the last 2 years putting superfoods all over our shelves. I don't know if you remember a brand called Your Super, RIP. But they put a lot of money into superfoods on their shelves and none of them sold. And so the buyer had like PTSD for putting superfoods on their shelves. And they were replacing it or going back to collagens. They said, no, 2023 is all about collagens. We don't even want to talk to you. I said, please put one single facing SKU of our hero flavor berry on the bottom shelf anywhere in the store, as many stores as you want to give us, and I'll show you what we're capable of. So in October or November 2022, they put us in 600 stores, the worst possible location, single forward-facing SKU, and we were a top 5 selling SKU in the department with just that being given to us. So being a spoiled e-commerce brat and thinking that things change, on a weekly, monthly, let alone daily level, I was like, all right, we're doing great. It's been a month. Now put us in full chain. They were like, yeah, sure. The reset's in October next year. And I was like, what are you talking about? Resolution season's coming up. Like we are resolution. It's going to be huge for us. You need to put us on full chain. I don't even need an end cap. Just put us in full chain for resolution season. They were like, that's literally impossible. That's not how Target works. You're an idiot. And so, which I think this, goes to show how little experience we had, our entire team had. We didn't have a head of sales or anything at this point. It was just Mari and I and Leo. And so I just didn't accept that. I was like, there's no way it should work this way. So transparently, I said, here's $1 million. Put us in full chain anywhere in the store you want that there's an open spot, which by the way, there was still a lot of supply chain issues with competitors at this point. So there were people who were not able to get onto the shelf for resolution season, which was a nightmare for Target working with these, other sellers. So I said, give us their spot. If they can't fill the shelf, put us anywhere in the store, just give us full chain. And I'm going to show you the best Target campaign that has ever happened digitally, let alone for a supplement brand. And they did that. So late November, we got ridiculous, all over the place placement within Target's full chain. And we ran a very aggressive resolution campaign for Target and ran that, mostly through the end of February, or at least through mid-February. And the first week of February, our berry greens hit the highest peak week of sales for a single SKU in the history of Target OTC. Wow. So that includes, Flonase, that includes Quest bars, that includes Vital Proteins, insert any, that includes aspirin, right? Yeah. So our peak week of sales, the highest week of sales of any product in supplements and OTC. And then, we started to talk about, okay, how can we make this a bigger presence? We launched one more flavor, I think it was in April, which was mango, which is now the top selling flavor. And what you're going to see coming up, I don't know when this goes live, but in September, you're going to see a really aggressive, branded end cap rollout, full chain, which I imagine will, at least double our Target business overnight. So we're very bullish on September forward and our relationship with Target. They've been fantastic to work with up until this point. They've been super supportive of a brand like us. And again, they're talking to people who have no experience. They're talking to people who we lack some understanding with some of the way that these corporations work. We're very digitally focused, which is, we have a digital Gen Z consumer with like omni-channel shopping behavior. So they shop all over the place. And I think it's just very new to how Target works, but they've totally embraced it, and they've been a pleasure to work with. I'm going to Minneapolis for maybe my 6th time next week to go chat with all of them over there, and we're really excited to discuss 2024. But what's crazy, just for anyone who doesn't know this, that's excited to get into retail, we're talking about 2025 for most of that meeting, which is still mind-blowing to me that that's the pace that retail works. But it is what it is.
So probably these last couple of years, because as the supplement category is transformed into like food and beverage, those brands that typically were selling a lot into GNC, a lot online, a lot of Vitamin Shop, they all of a sudden needed to play around with Kroger's and Targets and Walmarts and all those types of things. And it was such a kind of like a mind fuck, to your point, like around, you're used to working, especially if they're digital brands, they're used to working in like seconds, minutes, hours, maybe days, and all of a sudden they're working in like seasons and quarters and like years, and it's like so frustrating. And you're like, well, they're doing it completely wrong. We need to impart our wisdom on them. And then you end up getting probably more frustrated because you're like, I don't understand how they don't see what I could see. They don't know what I know. And it's the flip side. You don't know what they know. And it's one of those things where like they work in certain ways and like they work off of efficiencies and
Yep.
They have their ability to kind of like have that plan, and they move a little bit slower. But like that's when you're talking about pennies here and there, like that's really their business is to move kind of slow and steady. They're not really worried about, if you want to sell more or not. Like they'd love it, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't really push the needle for them all that much. At the end of the day, it's like one of those situations where it's like it's hard to move an immovable object. But I've seen this across the supplement industry, and I was lucky enough back 2016, 17, I started to see some of those things on the writing on the wall. And I started to take on projects with food and beverage, like salty snacks and carbonated soft drinks and things like that. Cause I was like, they do this stuff at the best. They're the best at it. They know how to do these things, distribution models, or if it's trade marketing, or it's just the consumer journey, or just at the store kind of influence, better than anybody else. And I'm like, if this is all going to go where I think it's going to go for my category, and all of a sudden these things are going to be placed more into grocery stores, and they're going to become more important across all these different channels, I needed to know this stuff to be able to help that. And it's lucky enough that like things moved in that direction. I mean, whatever, I would have wasted some time or I would have learned something new. But like the end of the day, it ended up working out. But like I still come up to this day, like every day I have entrepreneurs that, are selling tens of millions, if not, up to 100 million, like, but all of a sudden they're getting into large retail and they're like, I'm so frustrated. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. This doesn't make any sense to me because like, don't they know what I know? And it's like, I have to tell them like, but you don't know what they know. Like it's tough to kind of like balance those out. And it's over time, it's like you do impart a little bit of wisdom and they impart like you become this really valuable source of inspiration to some of these large retailers. And I think a lot of them are changing. If it's Walmart or if it's Target or even some of these other if it's 7-Elevens or whatever, they're starting to look at like emerging brand sets,
Yeah.
like cut-ins earlier into planograms, like try to figure out ways to like keep that fresher because I think merchandising needs to be new and exciting a little bit because if not, all that attention's going to move online. And they know that. I think they know they have to start to a little bit adapt. Obviously, they need to figure out a way to do it in their own way. But I think you pushing them ultimately helps them, even if you feel like
Yes.
you're just getting frustrated because you're like, I don't understand. They're not moving as quick or as aggressive or as agile as me. As they just can't.
The best sales pitch you can make to a Target, Walmart, insert retailer is I am going to bring you customers who are not currently going down this
Yeah.
aisle, let alone currently going to your store. Right. So if you can say I'm going to bring you a new customer into your store, who by the way will buy more than just Bloom,
Yeah.
that's the most valuable thing you can pitch them.
Incrementality, I think, is what people miss on so much as they go in there and they go, well, I'm gonna, I'm better than better than X product or whatever that is. But really you're just swapping dollars for dollars. What they want is I'm gonna bring you new dollars, which is at that point, and I think at this point,
Yes.
you've shown like you guys have shown through that first trial of like, hey, give me that one spot on the bottom. I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. At that point, they knew these guys can create incrementality. And because of that, you can write your own ticket at this point because literally you take that and you sell it to anybody. Hey, Costco, hey, whatever. Like I can
Yeah.
create incrementality because I know how to drive movement into the store with my audience. And they're going to go, that's literally 1%, if not lower than that, brands that can do that. And they're going to go, well, we have to give them whatever they want, which is an extremely powerful place to be at because
Yes.
you've been able to prove it. I mean, it's not that you're going to say you're going to do it. You've already done it. I think that's the important part.
I have two thoughts. One is on cadence of distribution, and one is on digital marketing for retail. So cadence of distribution. What's the saying? More doors, more sold, or something like that. Right.
Yeah,
So
it's like an ego thing. Yeah.
right. And so we were very strategic in just partnering with Target and then just adding on Walmart and then halting for at least 12 to 18, 24 months. And I think people don't realize how much damage you can do in just Target and Walmart. And if you give them that, maybe not contractually, but in at least a verbal agreement, that exclusivity,
Yeah.
how powerful you can make that symbiotic relationship because Target's not going to give you an end cap if you're in 15,000 doors.
Yeah.
Right? Target's not going to give you 4 placements of sales if you're in 15,000 doors, right? And so you need to cadence that distribution and you need to be very strategic with that distribution. Where back in the day, especially for a brand like us who is getting, 800 million of views a month through an influencer program, it made a lot of sense to say, hey, we need to be fucking everywhere, right? Insert, goalie, for example, who was in every door that anyone has ever been, the second they had that mass brand awareness, right? So cadence of distributions is crucial and building those relationships one by one with the retailer is crucial. And, I can only speak on that so much because we've only been in retail for not even 12 months, but, I can already tell it's going to be very important. I'm very glad that we didn't do rapid distribution. And then there's digital marketing. Not that I think there's a lot of haters on Bloom by any means, but there was definitely a big question mark. You can shut that for me. Thank you, babe. There was definitely a big question mark around Bloom was could they translate that D2C success over to retail?
Yeah.
Because a lot of brands can't. That's one of the most difficult things for a D2C brand to do. And I think the reason that conspiracy, let's say, exists that D2C brands can't translate the success into retail is because, brand Y goes into Target and then just expects sales to happen.
Yeah.
I'm spending millions of dollars a month trying to make sure everyone knows we're in Target. And that's not just through Roundel. That's not just through Target's marketing platform. In fact, I'm trying to get people who don't even go to Target right now to make sure they know we're in Target, right? So a huge part of our entire marketing efforts are about sending people to Target and making sure at the very least they know we're in Target. And that's how we've been able to translate that success. And there's been almost zero cannibalization to our other channels, by the way. So, I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of brands make. I see a lot of brands go into a very powerful retailer like Target or Walmart and borderline not even tell anyone they're there. Or they do one fun launch and then they stop talking about it. We run paid ads about saying go to Target. There's zero attribution. Imagine a Facebook ad with zero attribution. I sound like a fucking idiot running that, but it works. We see lift. I run Facebook ads to Amazon. People think I'm insane. There's no pixel on Amazon. People think I'm insane, but I do it because I think that Facebook ads work and they target the perfect customer, and you need to make sure they know you're in that store and to make sure they want to go get you in that store. And that pays dividends. So like, for example, September, we have this end cap. It's crazy that Target's trusting a brand that's been in there for 10 months with a huge branded end cap in full chain, right? I'm going to make sure they don't regret that decision.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to do a ridiculous September campaign saying go shop at Target. And then guess what? When I go to Minneapolis, I have an appointment on October 3rd with all the VPs over there. I'm going to slap those September sales down on the table the second that meeting starts and says, this is what happens when you give us an end cap. This is what happens when you give us this opportunity. We're not going to let you down. And we're going, the more opportunities you give us, the more we can insert that into this, media machine that we have. Right. So, I call an end cap a studio because you can send influencers to Target and make content with that end cap.
Yeah.
Right. So, and by the way, an end cap's also the greatest possible IRL billboard that exists.
Yeah.
Right. It's someone who literally has a shopping cart. They're trying to spend money. They're trying to buy something. They see this amazing greens product with education explaining what the product is. Who wouldn't want to incorporate better fruits and vegetables into their life, let alone, the whole formula. So I think end caps are like, branded moments within retailers are so valuable, and people do not put enough effort into getting them.
Yeah, I think
they think they deserve them for some reason, even though they're not, doing what I'm talking about.
I talked to a Walmart buyer a lot about this, just that the lack of sell-through strategy that brands have, like they think, well, I did the sell-in, the hard part's over, which to me, it's actually the opposite. That's the easiest part. The hardest part is like get somebody to take it off of the shelf and put it into their cart and buy it and then keep doing it millions of times over. That's the toughest thing to do. And to your point, like, because I think awareness always precedes trial, is that you have to create it. And most of your customers, or I would argue most everybody's customers at this point, it's like most of their awareness starts online. Like that's where it starts. Like that's where it starts. Like people find out about brands online and then they go through their journey, however many steps they take to validate things. Sometimes people go to Amazon and look at social proof and they'll go, okay, this looks like it checks out. And then it's in the consideration set. Then it's a matter of, like you said, if it's at Target or it's at Walmart or all these ones where they're typically at and they see it, then they're going to buy it. And I think that that's where it is. Like you don't, as a marketer, and especially a digital marketer, like you'd love to see the data in which those steps in which people take. But I don't necessarily think that that's readily available. I think you have to trust that like you understand consumer behavior, which is frictionless. I need to appease the general kind of shopping behaviors of my core customers. And if I keep doing that and that's all I focus on, then I'm going to win. And I have to trust that that's going to be it. I'm going to do everything I can to control the variables I can control, but like I need to make sure that I focus on consumer behavior over focusing on, I need to have these clean data sets. And I've noticed, at least from all the brands I've ever worked on that are, these are like savant digital marketers, like they are so anal about the numbers that they forget that there's consumer behaviors that like just don't make sense. Like customers and shopping and all that kind of stuff, like like people that make the patterns in which they do, like we're not as easy to understand as they think. They think, well, this is what the numbers say. It's like, that's not reality. You're missing so many. Yeah, you're doing well, but like you're actually creating so much leakage in your brand because you're not accounting for like just natural behaviors and things at which people are doing, because it's counter to the data in which you're only seeing a 1% of the transactions or whatever that is. Anyways, it's kind of crazy. So I'm glad that like you're saying like, yeah, I'm a digital marketer, but like you're also open up your aperture and go like, I have to focus on what the hell is the best customer experience for my Bloom people. That's it. Like that's all I need to care about. Where
Yeah,
they go, I don't care. But I want them to buy our stuff. That's it.
exactly. Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
And thinking of shopping behavior or shopper behavior and linking that back to cadence of distribution, dude, we were crazy to wait for Target, right? We could have gone into, I'm not going to answer their names because maybe one day we'll go in them, but we could have gone in so many stores in 2020, right? With stores that have thousands of doors, right? But we waited for Target. And I think people should be in no rush and they should wait for what they feel like is perfect for their shopper. And also what you spoke about, you would think that since I'm a digital marketer by trade, or my soul, I'm a data guy. I'm not a data guy, right? We don't actually we have 55 people on this team. We don't have one data analyst. Like we're not data people, right? Like we're social people. Like we try to really understand the customer. We do a lot of surveys and whatnot, but like I'm not. First of all, if you're not in retail for 12 months, you can't even get numerator or spins. It makes there's no L52. So there's nothing that can even help you, but we're still setting these records without any numerator or without any spins. So, I think just waiting to strike when it's exactly what you feel like is right is also a very important part of that process. But yeah, I mean, we're on the same page with a lot of things here.
Yeah, I think it's to your point. I think patience is something that in entrepreneurship, like you need to really understand. I always make this point of like serving the right master is like the brand and the customer, which to me is the same thing because you own the business, but the customer owns the brand. So like really whatever they think of the brand and what that customer wants, like that's really who your master is. Now, most people serve the wrong master. They serve what the retailer wants or, these revenue goals, these types of things where like it gets them off track of that long-term vision, where I think you guys are saying and doing it the right way and saying like, we're going to take the opportunities that are right, that make sense to our vision, and we're going to take the time based on our customers and our brand, not on how quick can we scale this up. Because I think that, if it's an example like Goalie or like, I'll say that in the 11 years of consulting plus a couple extra years of like working on brand strategy inside the house of some is like I've seen a lot of shooting stars just in the space. You know what I mean? Like you have people that to get up to 250 real quick, and then in a couple of years you're like, where did they go?
Yeah.
Because they're just serving the wrong master. They're not focused on what is best for my customer, what is best for that brand. And if you keep that as your North Star, you ultimately should continue to be a viable brand in the industry and have a place and have that distinct identity that makes sense for everybody. Eventually, people just lose sight of that. They start to focus on the wrong things instead of just it's funny because I say these things and a lot of times I'll say them in like when I'm working in with new clients and things like that, and then they look at me like that's your profound statement, and it's like the simplicity of that statement, if you don't really understand it, you actually miss what I'm trying to mention here. It's like it is simple, but it's also missed 90% of the time. Most of them are focused on things that are in the weeds instead of focusing on what is best for the brand and what's best for the customer. I mean, it seems simple, but that's it. That's business.
Yeah, I think the key word there is brand, right? And we, as a company, when we speak about marketing, we talk about growing awareness of Bloom, not growing awareness of our greens. Who knows what I won't speak on it here, but what our horizontal expansion looks like in terms of product line. And I mean, we do happen to have what might be the greatest name, Bloom. Shout out to my wife Mari for coming up with the name. But it's a platform brand is what we're trying to build here that can go on to other products. I mean, look at what Orgain has done. Orgain has a beautiful portfolio. There's something to be said about a hero SKU brand like currently Bloom probably, or definitely like Vital Proteins that can be a huge 9-figure brand with one product, or with most of it being from one product. But there's something to be said about Orgain too, which has several products that are just crushing it. And it's because they've built a platform brand. And that's a very different strategy in terms of how you handle your marketing.
I guess I'm privy to a little bit of the different things that you guys are playing around with, but like I think there is an important thing to think about with, yeah, there's that hero, let's go deep into one, like the Oreo play, like let's just go as deep as possible into one
Yeah, I mean,
thing. And then there's the most recent one that would be considered like the functional way would be Quest, but like it took Quest a long time to move
yeah.
from just the bar to now bars and chips. And
And
like,
that was
yeah,
post
they have
exit.
other ones that like are great as well, but like those are both nine-figure businesses in
Yeah,
themselves. And like those are typically even merchandised in different sets of the grocery store, which like that's tough to get to in the CPG world is like because as you go through those aisles, like it's tough to have all those messages being put in front of you, brands and this, that, and then you recognize the same one. You're, oh, I saw them in aisle 7. Oh, that's the same brand. Okay, cool. Like that's
yeah.
such a tough thing to do. But I
It's very
think,
tough. It's a
you know,
different
for
buyer. It's a completely different person that you
yeah,
have a relationship with at the store. By the way, those chips crush it. At
yeah.
Target,
Oh
at
yeah.
least. I was just looking at the data earlier. Those chips crush my aisle.
But yeah, I think that that's like, I wanted to kind of talk about what's next, but I think that is what's next probably for you guys is like, how do you transition into that platform brand, which, could take quite a few years. But I think,
Yes.
like you said, patience and focusing on what's best for the brand and what's best for the customer. I think you'll follow the right path towards that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're not in much of a rush. We think there's a very high ceiling left for just the greens and the different variants and sizing, flavors, whatever of the greens. But we're very excited to expand horizontally.
Obviously, I think this conversation we could probably went for hours. I feel like I
Yes.
have a lot of times where guests will be like, "I'm just getting started." I'm like, I know, but don't worry. We could do a part two. Maybe I'll come out to the offices and we'll
That'd
do
be
like a
great.
formal or whatever. But I think everything you provided, like tons of valuable information, which I totally appreciate. I appreciate the time that you gave me, Greg, and just kind of sharing a bunch of information. So thank you.
This was awesome. Joshua, anytime I've reached out to you, you've gotten back to me very quickly. And I've asked you for some unique favors in the past. You're a great person in the industry. So appreciate this. Appreciate you.
I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting the like button to support me. Also, help me get to my new short-term goal of 3,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that basically 80% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.